She was a young widow, her heart a raw, bleeding wound, her world shattered into a million pieces. She sought solace in the one place she thought she would find it, her church. But in the quiet, unyielding pews, she found not comfort, but judgment, not compassion, but rejection. She was turned away, a broken woman with a young child, left to face the world alone. But what the church didn't know was that a community was watching, a community that would rise up, unite, and show her the true meaning of faith, of family, and of love. You won't believe the devastating truth she carried, and the powerful lesson the community learned about the quiet power of a single act of kindness. In the quiet, suburban town of Meadowbrook, Ohio, a place where the lawns were meticulously manicured and the houses stood in neat, unyielding rows, lived a young woman named Sarah Jennings. At 29, her life had been a series of profound, unyielding losses, culminating in the most devastating one of all. Her husband, Michael, a kind, hardworking man with a smile that could light up a room, had been killed in a car accident 6 months ago. The accident had been a brutal, unyielding act of fate, a sudden, violent punctuation on a life that had been a beautiful, unadorned sentence. Sarah was left alone, a young widow with a 5-year-old daughter named Lily, a small, bright-eyed girl who was a living testament to the love she had lost. Sarah's world, once a vibrant, colorful canvas of dreams and hopes, had been reduced to a gray, muted palette of grief and despair. The house, once filled with the sound of laughter and the aroma of Michael's terrible but endearing cooking, was now a hollow echo chamber of silent memories. Every room, every object, was a painful reminder of a life that was now gone. Sarah's grief was a physical thing, a heavy cloak she wore everywhere she went. It was in the trembling of her hands when she tried to make a cup of coffee. It was in the hollowness of her stomach when she tried to eat. It was in the deep, unyielding ache in her heart that never seemed to fade. She was a woman who was slowly, silently, fading, but she was a woman who was still a mother. She had to be strong for Lily, her small, bright-eyed daughter who was the only reason she woke up in the morning. She had to be a beacon of hope in a world that had suddenly become so very dark. Sarah had always been a woman of profound, unyielding faith. She had found solace in the quiet comfort of her church, a small, white-steepled building that stood as a silent, unwavering beacon of hope in a world that was often dark and chaotic. Her faith had been a constant, gentle hum in her life, a quiet, rhythmic beat that had sustained her through the good times and the bad. She had believed, with a profound, unyielding certainty, that in the house of the Lord, she would find peace, she would find comfort, she would find a sense of belonging in a world that had suddenly become so very alien. She had seen her church not just as a building, but as a family, a community of like-minded people who would be there for her, who would hold her, who would heal her. One Sunday morning, a day that promised a quiet, unadorned peace, Sarah dressed herself and her daughter in their best clothes, a small, fragile act of defiance against the crushing weight of her grief. She was a woman who was slowly, silently, fading, but she was a woman who was still a mother. She held her daughter's hand, her small, warm fingers a lifeline in a world that was slowly, silently, sinking. They walked to the church, a silent, unyielding pilgrimage, their hearts filled with a profound, unyielding sense of hope. Sarah had a profound, unyielding belief that in the house of the Lord, she would find a community that would embrace her, that would hold her, that would heal her. She walked into the church, the familiar scent of old wood and beeswax a comforting balm to her shattered senses. She walked down the aisle, her heart a drumbeat of hope, her daughter's hand a small, warm anchor in a sea of silent, unyielding faces. She looked at the faces, and she saw not a community, but a collection of strangers. She saw not comfort, but judgment. She saw not compassion, but rejection. She saw the quiet whispers, the subtle glances, the profound, unyielding sense of unease that was a stark contrast to the quiet, unadorned peace of the church. She was an other, a person who did not belong, a person who was a living, breathing reminder of a tragedy that was an affront to their quiet, unyielding faith. The head of the women's auxiliary, a kind-faced but unyielding woman named Mrs. Davison, walked up to her, her face a mask of quiet composure. Mrs. Davison was a pillar of the community, a woman who had a profound, unyielding belief in the power of appearances. She saw the world in black and white, in a simple, unyielding equation of right and wrong. She saw Sarah not as a broken woman, but as a problem, a distraction, a living, breathing testament to the messiness of life. "Sarah," she said, her voice a low, gravelly monotone, devoid of any warmth. "We are so very sorry for your loss. We have been praying for you. But, we feel that your presence here is a distraction. A reminder. We feel that you need to take some time to heal. To be with your family. We feel that you should not come back here until you are ready?" Sarah's world imploded. She looked at Mrs. Davison, her face a mask of disbelief. "Mrs. Davison," she whispered, her voice a small, broken gasp. I came here to find comfort. I came here to find a sense of community. I came here to heal. This is my church. This is my family. Mrs. Davison simply smiled, a cold, humorless expression that never reached her eyes. We are a family, Sarah, she said. But we are a family of faith. And faith, as you know, is about hope. It is about joy. It is about a sense of peace. Your grief, it is a very heavy burden. It is a very heavy reminder. We feel that it is a distraction from the peace and the joy that we are trying to create here. We feel that it is a very difficult thing for the other members to deal with. We feel that you should take some time to mourn. To be with your family. And when you are ready to come back, when you are ready to be a part of our community again, we will welcome you with open arms. Sarah's heart, a raw, bleeding wound, began to pound in her chest. She looked at Mrs. Davison, at the cold, unyielding expression on her face, and she knew, with a chilling certainty, that she was a stranger in her own home. She had been turned away. She had been cast out. She had been rejected by the very people she had believed would be there for her. She was a broken woman with a young child, left to face the world alone. She felt a profound, aching sense of shame, a shame that was far worse than any physical pain. She had come to the church for help, for a community, for a family, and she had been rejected. She had been cast out, a living, breathing testament to a tragedy that was an affront to their quiet, unyielding faith. She walked out of the church, her daughter's hand a small, warm anchor in a sea of silent, unyielding faces. She walked out of the church, her heart a raw, bleeding wound, her world a gray, muted palette of grief and despair. She walked out of the church, and she felt a profound, aching sense of loss, a loss that was far worse than any loss she had ever known. She had lost her husband, she had lost her future, she had lost her faith. She had lost everything. But what the church didn't know was that a community was watching. A community that had been a silent, unseen witness to a tragedy that was unfolding before their eyes. The people of Meadowbrook were not a cold, unyielding monolith, but a tapestry of quiet, unyielding kindness. They were the people who had seen her at the grocery store, her eyes red with a profound, unyielding sadness. They were the people who had seen her at the park, her daughter's laughter a small, fragile beacon of hope in a world that was so very dark. They were the people who had seen her at the gas station, her hands trembling with a quiet, unyielding fatigue. They had seen her grief. They had seen her strength. They had seen her love for her daughter. They had seen her quiet, unyielding dignity. They had seen the truth. They had seen a woman who was a hero, a woman who was a champion, a woman who was a mother. That evening, as Sarah was sitting in her quiet, unadorned living room, her daughter asleep on her lap, there was a knock on her door. A loud, insistent, almost desperate knock that was a stark contrast to the quiet, unadorned solitude of her world. Sarah, with her usual slow, deliberate movements, walked to the door. She peered through the peephole, a small, circular window into a world that was no longer hers. A group of people, her neighbors, were standing there. A quiet, unyielding group of people, a tapestry of quiet, unyielding kindness. They were holding casseroles, boxes of groceries, toys for her daughter, and a profound, unyielding sense of love. The head of the neighborhood watch, a kind-faced but unyielding woman named Mrs. Jensen, walked up to her, her face a mask of quiet composure. Mrs. Jensen was a woman who had a profound, unyielding belief in the power of a single act of kindness. She saw the world not in black and white, but in a kaleidoscope of colors, a complex, messy, beautiful tapestry of humanity. She saw Sarah not as a problem, but as a person who was a living, breathing testament to the strength of the human spirit. Sarah, she said, her voice a low, melodic hum, filled with a profound, unyielding warmth. We're so very sorry for your loss. We have been praying for you. We want you to know that you are not alone. We are your family. We are your community. We are here for you. Sarah's world imploded. She looked at Mrs. Jensen, her face a mask of disbelief. She looked at her neighbors, at the quiet, unyielding group of people who were standing there, their hearts filled with a profound, unyielding sense of love. She looked at the casseroles, the boxes of groceries, the toys for her daughter, and she knew, with a chilling certainty, that she had been given a gift. A gift that was far more valuable than any money, any car, any house. She had been given a last meal that was a testament to her fading existence, a final, unyielding symbol of a life that was slowly, silently, coming to an end. She had been given a last meal that was a testament to her life. She had been given a community. She had been given a family. She had been given a home. The community of Meadowbrook, once a quiet, unyielding monolith, was now a tapestry of quiet, unyielding kindness. They had found their humanity, not in a prestigious church, but in a small, simple neighborhood. They had been broken, but they had been remade. They had lost a member, but they had gained something far more valuable, a family. They had found their dignity, not in a title, but in a kind heart. They had found their humanity, not in a prestigious church, but in a small, simple neighborhood. They had been broken, but they had been remade. They had lost a member, but they had gained something far more valuable, a family. From that day on, Sarah was no longer alone. Her neighbors became her family, her community became her home. They helped her with her groceries, they helped her with her daughter, they helped her with her life. They were a quiet, unyielding presence in her life, a constant, gentle hum that was a comforting balm to her shattered senses. They showed her the true meaning of faith, of family, and of love. They showed her that true faith was not in a building, but in a kind heart. They showed her that true family was not in a name, but in a bond of love. They showed her that true love was not in a word, but in a single act of kindness. Sarah, a woman who had once been a ghost, a phantom, a person who was slowly, silently, fading, was now a woman who was alive. She had found her humanity, not in a prestigious church, but in a small, simple neighborhood. She had been broken, but she had been remade. She had lost her husband, but she had gained something far more valuable, a community. She had lost her past, but she had gained something far more valuable, a future. She had walked out of the church as a loser, and she had walked into her home as a champion. And in that moment, she knew that she was finally, truly, free. This story is a powerful reminder that you never know what someone is going through. It's a reminder that a single act of kindness can change a life forever. It's a reminder that true strength is not in a title, but in a kind heart. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to be reminded of the power of empathy. Like and subscribe for more stories that will change your perspective and remind you that sometimes, the most valuable lessons are the ones that are learned in the quiet of a simple act of kindness.